wellness circles. Their website is healingbeings.org, and I encourage you to take a look at that if you haven't already. I've got a whole bio up there. So I just wanted to take a minute and explain how all of this came into being. I have been receiving medical treatment here for almost a year. I'll be in May, and also I've been working with Sri Mataji, just sort of spiritual counseling, if you will, and of course we talk about what's going on, and I've talked quite a bit about the different projects that I'm involved in and things that I want to do. And one day we were talking about something that I've been thinking about for a few years now, which is that this is such an intense time of life. Menopause, there's the physical aspects of what's going on, but also just in terms of where you are in your life, if you're married, or if you have kids, or where your kids are, if they're leaving or they're staying or whatever they're doing, but where you are in terms of your career or not having a career, or just so many factors of kind of reinventing who you are. And I feel really blessed to have had the opportunity to sort of reinvent myself a number of times. But this sort of thought has been coming back to me again and again and again, where I've thought, is there some way to work with this? Is there some way for me to be of service? And so I was having this conversation, some of you have heard this story, I was having this conversation with Sri Mataji, and he said, well, you're going to start doing women's healing circles for the healing. But, oh, you mean I can't just talk about it? Actually do it? So I just kind of went with it, and here we are. And I'm just really grateful for this. But, the more I thought about it, I just thought, there's really so much to talk about. So this is just, the first thing. So I kind of wrote up kind of what the objective and vision is to more, succinctly codify what I'm saying. Objective and vision of the Women's Healing Circles: to provide a monthly forum and safe, comfortable place to talk and share about issues we're all contending with, to build community and resilience, to form bonds and connections amongst each other, as well as help each other transition to being healthier and more energetic and efficient, which in turn will hopefully heighten the level of functioning and enjoyment in all areas of our lives. I'm hoping to inspire you to become more informed than you might already be, and take charge of what has the potential to be a truly incredible and significantly long and fulfilling part of your life. One of the sources I consulted in the process of getting ready for today, The Secret Pleasures of Menopause, by Dr. Christiane Northrup, said, and this really blew my mind, that if you've gotten to age 50 without suffering from cancer or heart disease, your life expectancy is at least 92. And that we may be, I know, that just blew my mind, and we may be headed for, I know, right? There's more, and we may be headed for a time where we can live longer after menopause than we did prior to reaching that point. And I think actually that CD is from, Nancy's plotzing, is from 2008, so incredible. I kind of think mostly that's good news, but you have to be prepared to take care of yourself so that your body can withstand all that, obviously.
And have enough money in the bank.
That too! Yeah, I didn't even think about that part.
Our very wealthy children.
Right. Children. So, learning to love your menopausal body is, of course, a bit of a metaphor for learning to love and regard yourself in perhaps a different way than you had previously. I had been on a path away from Western medicine for some time. Most of you know this, but I have suffered from equilibrium issues for the last 8.5 years now. And, I won't go into that whole boring tirade, but, the bottom line is that after the first couple of years where I was going from Western doctor to Western doctor and getting no answers and no relief, in fact, the last Western doctor that I consulted for anything other than testing was a neurologist who thought that what I had was some version of migraine-related dizziness, as he called it. And he was trying me on a bunch of migraine medications, which And, you know, it was actually really fascinating to me as an aside because each of these medications used to be a medication for something else. One was an antidepressant, one was an epilepsy, you know, so that kind of freaked me out. But, you know, I would try these things, and it not only wouldn't work, but I would feel like I wasn't living in my body. And so I finally just decided I can't do this anymore. So I, you know, kind of had been on a path from healthcare provider to healthcare provider, and finally my dear friend Rochelle said, you gotta go see Dr. Sadeghi. So this has just really helped me a lot being here. And obviously, of course, Western doctors have their place, but you know, certainly in terms of like a whole body experience, this has really been a lot more along the lines of what I've been looking for. And in addition to the healthcare, when I first started treating here, Dr. Sadeghi gave me a variety of books to read. The first book he gave me to read, and all the books that I make reference to, I have out on the table out there if you want to look at them. It's a book called Guilt is the Teacher, Love is the Lesson, and it's by Joan Borisenko. And it talks about the vital integration of the physical, mental, emotional, and spiritual. And that's sort of not surprising, but somehow just the way she put it, in just such a warm, human way, I really got it for the first time. And reading this book led me to sort of investigate what else she had done. I'd heard her name, but I didn't really know what she was all about. And she has a CD that's also out there that's called Menopause, Initiation into Power. And listening to that brought me to this really incredible moment. She tells a story where it sounds like she was very much a daddy's girl, which I am. And she talks about having had a difficult relationship with her mother. And unfortunately, she doesn't say how old she is, or if she did, I missed it, when this happened. But she says that she wrote a short story about her difficult relationship with her mother and how painful it was, and put it in a drawer in her room, and her mother was cleaning out her room, found the story, read it, and yelled at her, said, how could you do this to me? I mean, of course she didn't do anything, but you know, after all I've done for you, and didn't speak to her for 2 years. And it was just so incredible. I mean, you know, my mother never did anything like that, but it was just such an incredibly sad thing to think about. Like, I mean, any of us, I hope, if you came across something like that and read it, you know, wouldn't you want to go to your kid and say, how sad, you know, I'm so sorry that you feel this way, what can we do to repair this? And as I said, nothing like this actually happened in my house, but my mom wasn't that kind of mom, you know, and it just really struck me, that whole mother-daughter relationship. She even says, like, at this point in your life, like, this stuff just rears up and bites you in the ass, and if you don't deal with it, like, you really can't go on to the rest of your life to have the rest of your life that you really want to have. And I literally was listening to the CD in the car, and I had to pull over, and I just thought, like, okay, you know, it's really, I want things to change. I don't want to have all this, you know, crap hanging over my head all the time anymore. So yeah, I mean, I just thought, like, and it wasn't even like I set out to, you know, in a course of plan of action to do any specific thing. It was just, I think, the openness to have the change is what made the change come about. And, you know, I was really having a lot of anger toward my mom for a variety of things, and I don't have that anger anymore. And I'm relieved not to have that anger because, I mean, she's only 75, but, you know, how much longer is she going to be here? And I don't want that baggage,
92.
so.
She's not here now, is she? She's not in attendance, I hope.
No, but my sisters I know will. Mom's the word here. So, the choice of whether or not to deal with these things that are holding us back obviously has a lot to do with the courage and willingness to delve into ourselves, work toward getting rid of what's not serving us, and connect with our spirituality so as to not only serve ourselves better, but to be of service to those we love, but in a different way than previously. Many of us feel like we've given and given and given until we're all tapped out, but are so used to being in that mode that we don't know how to get out of it and feel bereft and perhaps a bit angry and bitter when that level of giving is no longer needed. But it's at that point that we must adjust to the other's changing needs and recognize the gift of the freedom to explore and pursue what really makes us feel happy and fulfilled. And that the very feminine attributes of love, tolerance, compassion, understanding, and humility are qualities to be nurtured, enhanced, even celebrated in this next phase of our lives, not tamped down and suppressed just because the needs of those around us have changed. There are, of course, various ways to address the kind of integration that this requires. And that's kind of what I mean by learning to love my menopausal body, which of course got a lot of snickers from the outset. But really what I mean by that is taking these beautiful feminine attributes that we all have and enjoying the space and freedom that we're perhaps starting to experience, and yes, even enjoy and focus them on ourselves. We'll be talking a lot more about this in coming sessions, which I hope you all come to, but really the threshold issue is evolving in the way we care for ourselves from a physical standpoint, as it's pretty tough to do the mental, spiritual, emotional work if our bodies are depleted and exhausted. So, I'll talk a little bit about my experience. I did already a little, but I've been all over the board in terms of hormones and this and that and the other thing, and I just find like what's out there is so confusing, and I know a lot of you are experiencing this. I mean, from the standpoint even of the gynecologist that I was seeing after Zach was born, for many years, and then I started, I don't even remember now, having some vaguely perimenopausal type symptoms, and I remember, asking her, oh, it doesn't matter, you don't really need to know. And, now thinking back on that sort of attitude from another woman is really kind of odd. And somewhere in the process of, all of this dizziness stuff, I realized that I was always dizzier right at the beginning of my period. So that sort of got me into the quest of, looking into bioidentical hormones, which I did for a number of years. I did them under one doctor, and then that doctor got me all messed up, and so I stopped completely for a while, and then I started again, and just this summer I got off them completely. And so, are things perfect? No. I mean, am I still having hot flashes all the time? Yes. But I reached a point with the hormones where I was still having hot flashes, and I was putting weight on that I didn't feel was deserve, thank you. And I know I deserve it. but so I stopped, and I just feel better about the whole thing. But it's so damn confusing, and how do you sort of take ownership of all of this, because I think it's just so, we all have our gynecologists, and we like them or we don't like them, to various extents, but, how do you sort of make peace with this, where you, where you like the answer, but you feel you have some ownership in the whole process. So, and, of course there's tons and tons of books out there, literature, etc. One of the books I also brought today is called The Hormone Cure by Dr. Sarah Gottfried, I think. I just got it and I haven't looked at it yet, but I heard her speak on it, and basically the upshot of what she says is, the ultimate experience at this point is to partner with a healthcare provider that you trust, but also have your own ownership in it, which makes a lot of sense. So Debbie, what did you want to say?
What I was going to say is, I think you know, I ended up going back to my long term, the doctor that delivered my kids, but I had gone to a female doctor. And I think that the OBGYNs, they just want to stick you on the hormones. And I ended up having a partial hysterectomy last year because I had crazy fibroid tumors. And that I'm fine that I let it go. That's totally fine. But then even my longtime guy says, you need this. Well, what happened was I ended up completely catatonic and depressed. And I want to thank you because then I finally ran my hormone levels. And I felt like enough estrogen, like I'm 25 or 26, there was no need. But I think they just think that, okay, you're at this age and that we feel you need this, but there's really no bait. Do you know what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. It's like it doesn't really necessarily work for everybody. You might not really be at that point. And so you're completely correct. There's tons of information out there.
Right. I mean, there is, but you've got to have your hormone levels checked from time to time. And part of it, I mean, when I was on the hormones, you know, I could tell when my estrogen was going up and down just because, you know, where the hot flashes were and where my weight was. So I learned to sort of, you know, adjust the creams from that standpoint. But I don't know, you know, it's obviously it has more effects than, you know, that any of us know. And even just, you know, I'm a terrible sleeper. I always have been. But, you know, and I have always woken up in the middle of the night and feeling, you know, vague anxiety and thinking like, well, you know, where I would really have to stop myself and go, all right, what am I even anxious about? And, you know, the concept that a percentage of that anxiety could just be due to hormones, like that just blows my mind, really. And actually, I was having a conversation with Mar24 about that, and he said, well, it's 30% of the anxiety is from the hormones. I don't know where that came from, but why? Like, why does that happen? And what can you even do about it, you know? So, I mean, you can do a lot of things. You can meditate and you can breathe and, you know, all of that I think is really helpful. So, I actually have a little meditation to do if you guys will indulge me. It's just a 5-minute thing. It's on my phone. And you too can get this app, the wondrous iPhone. Gotta get the little social media thing in there. So, you know, just to have a 5-minute thing. So let's do that. All right. Oh, you know what? I'm gonna turn the lights off.